V8, is it this mysterious black box that we can't possibly hope to understand or peek inside of? Quite the opposite. Google's V8 engine is open source. It's available to look at, to use, and to even change for your own purposes. That's not the goal of this course, but because of that, we can take a quick look and demystify just a little bit the mystique of something like a JavaScript engine. Let's take a quick look at V8. To find it, I'll just do a simple Google search. I'll search for Chrome V8. And you'll see that under code.google.com, there's the project hosting for the V8 JavaScript engine. I searched for Chrome V8 because V8 was primarily written to be used inside the Google Chrome browser, and it certainly is. However, it's also built in a way that lets it be used elsewhere and in other ways. So I'll go to the project hosting page, and we'll see that right away we have a few bullet points that are of interest under the V8 JavaScript engine according to Google's documentation. We can see that V8 is Google's open source JavaScript engine. We understand that. V8 is written in C++ and used in Google Chrome. We understand that. V8 implements the ECMAScript standard and runs on Windows, Mac, Linux, and systems that use particular machine code, particular microprocessors that speak particular machine code like IA32, x64, ARM, or MIPS processors. So we understand that too. So here we have the V8 JavaScript engine, and there's even a link called source. I could export the source to GitHub if I have a GitHub account, or if I go to source and then click the link, there's a Git repository, a source code repository. That is to say, there's a spot where all the source code of V8 lives, and I can go grab it free of charge. That's open source software. So I've already done that. If you know C++, you know Git as far as how to use a Git repository to grab code, feel free to mess around with this if you like, but it's certainly not necessary. However, I've done it for you so that we can gain a little bit better understanding of V8 itself. I've gone ahead and downloaded all the source code for the V8 engine, and I've opened it here in a program called Visual Studio Code, which is from Microsoft. Visual Studio Code works on Mac, Linux, and Windows, and it's a great program for editing code and taking a look at it. So that's what I'm using, but you can use whatever code browser you want throughout the rest of this course. I'll be using Visual Studio Code quite a bit. However, for the moment, we're just looking at V8. If I open this source folder, the SRC folder, you already see some things that we might have seen before. ARM, IA32, x64. There's entire sets of code for each of the machine languages that V8 supports, so we can convert JavaScript into any one of these languages. And what's more than that, inside there's a huge number of .h and .cc files. .cc is a C++ file, and .h is also part of the C++ language. All of this code, all of this C++ has to do with implementing the ECMAScript standard. This is the engine. This is the engine's code that will read JavaScript, the text of JavaScript, and convert it into machine code. And it's a lot of code. There's things in here that we could somewhat understand even if you don't write C++, like there's a date.cc file that deals with dealing with dates. JavaScript has to deal with dates, and so there's code written in C++, and notice this looks a little bit like JavaScript. There's code written in C++ that handles dates, because JavaScript needs to handle dates, and this engine is going to convert what you write in JavaScript to something that the computer processor can actually run. So this is code within the engine. V8 is huge. It's been worked on for years, and it's highly performant. It's really fast, and it's extremely useful. And it's free, open source. You can use it within your own programs, and that's what we're going to see next. But here we can see that V8 isn't some mysterious black box. It's just a lot of code. Code designed to do exactly what an engine is supposed to do. Execute JavaScript. That is to say, convert JavaScript code that you write into something far more base, far lower, and in some ways more complex. All right, let's move on.